Hello everyone, in this video we are going to talk about the work planes. Work planes are extremely important to understand before we go into details of 3D modeling features. So in this tutorial we had a video, the name of the video was Origin Planes, and in that video we briefly talked about the XY plane, XZ plane, and YZ plane. Where they all meet, they create the X-axis, Y-axis, and Z-axis. And if you highlight them all, where they all meet, they create the center point. Now, we covered this in that video because every time we create a sketch, we have to select one of the planes. In a real world, if you're working on an object with your hands and maybe you are creating something with Legos, you need a surface to work on. Maybe it's your desk, maybe it's the floor, but you need a flat surface to work on it, whatever you're doing with your hands. And in a CAD software, you also need to work on a surface. And in a CAD software, that surface is called a plane. So in this case, we are creating a sketch and we are creating that sketch on the XY plane. And let's draw a 2-point rectangle. And we don't have to worry about dimensioning it or constraining it right now. Let's finish the 2D sketch and then apply a 3D modeling action to it, extrude it by 10 millimeters. Now it's just a simple 3D object. Now this object is sitting on the XY plane. That is basically our tabletop that we are working on. And then we can continue to build on this by using this plane, or we can take advantage of the other planes. For example, this XZ plane is on the side of the 3D object, and we can use that to create another sketch. For example, another rectangle here. And now we can finish that 2D sketch and apply another modeling action to it. Something like this maybe. Let's delete the second extrusion and talk about something else. We can use these default planes that Inventor provided us to create sketches on, and then we can apply modeling actions to those sketches. But also, as we create these 3D objects, we also create new surfaces for ourselves. This is, for example, the left surface. This is the right surface, bottom surface, top surface, back surface, and front surface. Now we can use these as a surface to work on, kind of like the plane, a new plane that we created. So we can create a new sketch on the front surface. You can see that in the view cube here. Now you can draw, for example, a circle this time. And then we can finish that 2D sketch and apply a modeling action to it. This way we can continue to modify the 3D object. We can manipulate the 3D object, and we can continue to take advantage of the default planes that Inventor provided us or the surfaces that we ourselves created to continue to modify our 3D object until our design goals are met. So now there's another way to actually modify the design, which is by creating planes. Sometimes the design that we created or the default planes that Inventor provided us are not sufficient to modify the design the way we want to design. So for example, what if I want to create a 3D object? What if I want to add a 3D modeling action on a sketch on a plane like this? This plane is not provided by Autodesk Inventor. Or I do not have a surface like this on the 3D object that I created. I had to custom make this plane. And how did I do it? By clicking on this plane option in the Work Features menu. Let me undo that and redo it for you. I click on the plane, and now notice that I can highlight these surfaces, I can highlight the edges, I can highlight the corner points, I can even highlight the midpoints of these edges. If I select this edge here, I can just hover on other surfaces and areas, and that shows me the highlight, just shows me the preview of the planes that I can create. And if I go to this edge right here, that can create me a plane like this. Now, this is a custom-made plane that I can work on. So now, just like working on a XY plane or XZ or YZ plane, or just like working on a surface that I have on a 3D object I created, I can also create a new sketch on this plane that I created. For example, I can just draw a circle right here. Now you can't see that circle. It's just a little trick, by the way. In a sketch mode, if you hit F7, you can see the design you made. Right now, there's material in front of it, so that's why it's blocking us. I'm going to finish 2D sketch, and when you say extrude, you can see that piece there. Let's just say it's two-sided. Now we just created this weird looking shape on that plane that we created. We couldn't have created this shape on this surface. I mean, technically we could, but it would take a long time. But by creating our plane that we want to work with, we saved ourselves more time, and we have this reference plate that we can use to basically meet our design goals. Now, let's go back and delete this extrusion as well. And now we can just select the surface and select a point. Now we can actually create another plane on a surface. Well, we can actually create a plane at a certain distance. We select the surface and drag the plane with our left mouse button and say 25 millimeters. Now we created a custom-made plane 25 millimeters away from the surface. Or we can create a manual, custom-made plane with an angle. So I can select plane, I can select this top surface, and I can select this edge here. Now I can enter 45 degrees, and now it's a plane I can work on at 45 degrees to the surface of the 3D object. I can create all these 3D, I can create all these planes, and I can continue to create sketches on them, and I can apply 3D modeling actions to all these sketches. So let's delete all these planes because they look pretty complicated right now. And let's talk about the final detail about the work planes. Notice that there is a drop-down menu. And in the drop-down menu, you have a bunch of options here. You don't have to memorize them. All you need to know is everything you see in this list, you can do all of them with the plane, work plane option. With the work plane feature, you can create everything. But when you click on work plane, everything is going to be highlighted. Notice that surface is going to be highlighted, edges are going to be highlighted, corners are going to be highlighted, midpoints are going to be highlighted. It's up to you to select what kind of plane you want to create. So for example, if I select this surface, and if I select this surface, it is going to create a plane in the middle. Let's undo that. But when I click on the drop-down menu, I actually have a specific option for that, mid-plane between two planes. So now when I select that, notice that it is no longer highlighting the edges, or it is no longer highlighting the corners, because this is a specific way to create a plane. I can select this surface, and that is going to create the same plane. So basically, you can do everything you see here with plane option, with the work plane feature. You can create any plane you want, but sometimes you want to just use a specific option to create the type of plane you want to create. Let me give you another example. So for example, if I select the plane, I can select this corner, I can select this corner, and I can select this corner. And that creates me this plane that goes through the part. And then let's undo that and recreate it. When I go down to the drop-down menu, I have 3 points option. When I select the 3 points, now I cannot select the surface. I cannot select the edge, but I can only select the points. Now I can select this corner point, I can select this corner point, and I can select this corner point and select this and create the same exact plane. Again, the other options are pretty much the same thing. You can, for example, like tangent to surface through the edge. If you have like a round geometry here, when you applied a modeling action, like extruded a circle or something, and you will have, you know, the curve, you will have a curvature on that object, and you will be able to apply tangent to surface through the edge, for example. You can apply you can create those planes based on different 3D models. But again, you can create same exact stuff with the work plane option. So now let's talk about the axis and point in the work features menu. Again, just with the default planes like XY and XZ and YZ plane, and where XY plane and XZ plane meet, you have the X-axis. Same thing with the axis and point in the work features menu. So I have two planes here and the second one here. Where they meet, I can create an axis. I can select axes and select this plane and select that plane, and that is going to create this axis where they meet. Or, for example, I have this surface here, and then I have this plane, I have this plane, and I have this surface. And I can use these three, one surface and two planes, for example, to create a point. I can select point, select this surface, this plane, and that is going to create a point where they meet. Just like the default point and default axes and default planes that Inventor provided me, I can create my own custom-made planes. I can create my own custom-made axes. I can create my own points in the design. And later, I can take advantage of these reference points to just improve my design and reach to my end goal. So that's why work planes are extremely important, because we will be creating work planes to take care of some of the design tasks in the future. Again, you just don't try to look at this menu and memorize them. We will just they're very self-explanatory. You can kind of keep your cursor on them and read the explanation, but you can just use the plane to do pretty much everything and create whatever plane you want to create. In summary, we create sketches and we create 3D models by using the default planes that Inventor provides us. And we can take advantage of the surfaces of the 3D objects. And then sometimes we have to create our own planes, either for reference or to create new sketches on, to be able to apply modeling actions to them. And in the following videos, we're going to get into creating more 3D modeling features. We're going to extrude, revolve, sweep, and loft, for example, is going to be a good example to go over the planes. And we're going to do some exercises, and that's going to help us understand everything better. Thank you, and see you in the next video.